So this one is very close to me, and I'm not even sure. Well, I should say I do know that most people have not even heard of it. So our segment today is: Did you know about sarcoidosis? So how is that spelled? Sarcoidosis, and I'm putting the spelling right under here so that you'll be able to see it. Actually, what it is. So, sarcoidosis is an inflammatory disease that affects major organs of the body. So, my biggest interest in this is because it predominantly affects African American women. Really doesn't give you an age segment, but that's who it affects the most. What does it do? It actually attacks any major organ in the body. So it could be the lungs, the eyes, the skin, the liver. Predominantly, in about 80% of the cases, it is the lungs. It can also affect the heart as well. So what happens is, first of all, it's very hard to diagnose. And I was probably introduced to an article several years back, like probably 15 years plus back, with Essence. Essence did a huge spread on sarcoidosis and how it affects African American women. And of course, having someone diagnosed very close to me, I wanted to know more about it. So of course, the effect that I was familiar with was the diagnosis with the lungs, how it affects the lungs. So with the lungs, of course, you'll have shortness of breath. It's kind of like a cough that you can't get rid of, and it could appear that maybe you have a cold. But if you have a really good doctor and they kind of know about the disease, then they can actually give you a chest exam, and they could basically, I should say, rule out all other diseases that it is sarcoidosis. Because it's so often misdiagnosed, people go for years with it and don't even know that they have it. Of course, once it's diagnosed, everybody wants to know, how do I get rid of it? What can I do? There's really not a prescribed list of things that can go on or that you can do to quote unquote get rid of it. In reading some of the information that I read, it can actually arise and be present and then almost go into what we would know as a remission, where it doesn't even seem like you have it anymore, and then maybe come back again. But from my experience, I should say, that probably one of the best things if someone is diagnosed with sarcoidosis is to change their eating habits. Now, first, I just told you that it's hard to diagnose. 80% of the cases are African American women. So when we talk about changing our diet and we talk about us as African American people, that is a hard thing to do. So some of the things that happened when someone very close to me was diagnosed is they had to change their eating habits. And the first thing the doctor said is to not drink any tap water. They asked them to remove dairy from their diet. So that was cheeses, which is huge. When you think about milk, anybody who knows me knows I'm just like, I could be carrying a sign that says no milk because of how I feel about milk and what it does to the colon. To remove pork and beef from their diet. So just a lot of things that really, if you think about if it's affecting your lungs and making it easier for you to breathe, how the removal of these things from your diet can play a huge part. If we think about how do I get it? How does someone get sarcoidosis? They have no clue. They can list some reasons. It's not hereditary. So they really can't say it's hereditary, although different things, everybody's makeup is a little bit different. So some people can be, I should say, exposed to it a little bit more, but really they have no clue. I could give you all of my conspiracy theory clues, but I won't do that. But they have no clue how it comes about. It's almost in the form, and it's not the same at all, but people are like, how do I get cancer? Or how do I get leukemia? Or how do I get this? And they have no clue. And it's the same thing for sarcoidosis. When we think about probably the most famous person you've heard in relation to the autoimmune disease sarcoidosis is Bernie Mac. So Bernie Mac was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, and I'm not really sure of the year he was diagnosed, but shortly after, I should say, Bernie Mac died of pneumonia. And what happens with people who have sarcoidosis, their immune systems are very low. So to fight off what we would normally have as a regular cold easily becomes pneumonia to them. So probably I read several articles when Bernie Mac died, as far as where he was with sarcoidosis, but it is a disease that we know predominantly affects African American women. Tisha Campbell is another one who has been diagnosed with sarcoidosis, and she talks about it openly as well. I would definitely say, if you have any questions or anything like that, to look it up on the internet. The information is pretty much the same across the board wherever you look. The biggest thing is to know that it exists. And even when you go to a doctor, and if you look at some of the symptoms, if you think you're experiencing some of those symptoms that won't go away, a cough that constantly is there, shortness of breath that always seems to happen, when you're going to your doctor, I would make sure and let them know, can I be tested for sarcoidosis? It may be a term that they've never even heard of, but it is out there. It's predominant among African American women. So we just have to make sure that we're knowledgeable, and that when we go to our doctors, that we feel free of speaking and saying, look, I need to be tested for this, for whatever the reason is. So once again, the did you know in this segment is sarcoidosis. I gave several things: what it is, how you get it, no clue. More preventative ways, and once diagnosed, how it can be treated with your diet. I am a firm believer that the same way that your body is damaged, I should say, by things is food, which is the same way that your body can be healed, is by food. So check it out on the internet, look it up. The name again is sarcoidosis. The spelling is right here so you can see it. But make sure that you're just aware, and should something come up, that you can look it up and be informed. Once again, thank you for listening. And as always, continue to move something. Bye. Hi guys, I just wanted to briefly post the Bernie Mac Foundation at the end of the video. It's some really good information on the site. If you just go to www.berniemacfoundation.org, he has a lot of information about sarcoidosis, the foundation. Very basically, you'll notice it's the same information that I did and talked about in this video. So if you get a minute, this really is a central location that you can go to find out information, because even if you search it on the internet, basically the information is consistent. I know we can get a little weary about looking for things on the internet, and sometimes information can be inaccurate, but because there is such limited information about sarcoidosis, all of it is pretty much consistent. So I would say definitely check out his foundation. You'll notice that there are a lot of links to the American Lung Foundation, because he did have sarcoidosis that affected his lungs. So of course they're raising money for that, and they're dedicated to improving the care for sarcoidosis patients and to finding a cure for this disease. Once again, thank you so much for listening. If there is a video that you want us to kind of research and talk a little bit more about, or even if you'd like to be interviewed for something, that a subject that you're interested in, shoot us an email or leave us a message down below and let us know. Make sure and subscribe to our page so you never miss a video. And as always, continue to move something.